Hey folks, it's me, Ranger, and as promised, here is my special review for thanking you guys for 100 subscribers. I know it doesn't seem much, but to me, it is kind of is, 100 subscribers. Ever since I started this account during the summer, and after facing some speed bumps here and there, which I won't go into detail, but just to say that I really thank you guys for the support you've been giving me, and I hope that you guys have been enjoying the content I've been putting out both on Instagram and here on YouTube as much as I can. It honestly has been sort of a hassle for me, balancing what I want to do for social media and what I want to do for real life, but it's not the point. So anyway, so enough rambling on. So for my 100 special review, or 100 subscriber special, I did a poll on Instagram to list, certain special figures that you guys want me to review. And who came out on top? Well, it is none other than the Godzilla Store exclusive movie monster series, Varan. Yes, so this is a really special one indeed. Okay. So, without further ado, let us get into a little bit of history. Varan's history is a little interesting. So, of course, he had his own movie, which was back in 1958, and I have not seen it as of this video. And from what I've saw on other people's reviews and on specifically Wikizilla, basically the movie kind of plays out as your average B plot where a giant monster appears and it's people trying to kill Varan and all that. But what I do know is that towards the end of his movie, he ended up eating some bombs and that's how he died. Yeah, kind of morbid. Of course, not as morbid as the Oxygen Destroyer from Godzilla, but yeah. So Varan's history is somewhat simplistic in his first movie. And other things is that he was apparently a Mesozoic Varanopod, a lizard-like being. So yeah, it's thought I mentioned that. Of course, in one of his more his second debut at this point, which is only a 10-second cameo in, of course, Destroy All Monsters, which was his entry point in the Godzilla series, where he only shows up for a brief 10 seconds. Because he was supposed to have a more bigger role, but apparently by the time Destroy Monsters was in production, the Varan suit from the first movie was really in a bad condition. So all they had to salvage was a miniature puppet. So yeah, so unfortunately Varan, like some other monsters, well, I think it was only him, Varan and Baragon in the movie that kind of got the short end of the stick and Destroy Monsters. So yeah, that's a little unfortunate. And of course, he was meant for other roles throughout the years, but he ends up getting pushed back because of more popular kaiju's. Of course, one of which is for GMK, but more on that later. So yeah, so now a whole lot to go off Varan's history. So let us get on with the figures. So there's no denying, Varan in figure form has been really frustrating when it comes to collecting, a decent Varan figure. Like, aside from, let's say, some Sabubis and maybe some X Plus, if you want, like a decent, action figure of Varan, that you're limited on a few options. Like, of course, the first one that comes to mind is the YMSF figure, but that one has, become super rare over the years and is, pretty expensive now. And then, of course, there's the Treadmasters figure that was released, but again, super rare. And that one is a bit shorter and is a lot more stylized than, other Varan figures. So people were freaked out when, Bandai announced, hey, we're gonna make, a Varan figure and not, some random Godzilla form like that Godzilla Amphibia thing from Singular Point. Yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about, but yeah, so So people were psyched that, oh great, we're finally getting Bandai Varan. And once the figure came out, people had their mixed opinions. Some loved it, some thought it was okay, and some thought, it just kind of falls in the short end of the stick. With me though, I'm actually really happy with how Varan turned out in Bandai form. Like, you know, this is, probably your best bet at getting Varan in your collection, hands down. Like, this is a pretty damn good figure. And, for being, a Godzilla store exclusive, if they had to do it that way, let it be that way. I just wanted a decent Varan in my collection, and I finally have him because I'm going to be honest with you guys. Varans have become one of my favorite Godzilla kaijus, and more recently, actually. I just really like, how obscure he is, yet he has a really memorable design, and he just needs more love. Luckily he did got some, attention from outside media, like, let's say, Godzilla Rules of Earth and Godzilla Unleashed. I think Unleashed is where, his popularity kind of spiked. But, without further ado, I think we should get on with the figure review. So, take a look at the head. The head on Varan looks really good. This definitely captures Varan's likeness very well. Like, you have his, shorter snout with, some of the bumps he has on his face. Of course, some of the spikes up there also. And of course, his infamous fins along his side chin. So, or side cheeks, I should say, whatever. But yeah, they look really decent, nicely sculpted. These ones are the only ones that kind of protrude out, while these ones are stuck on the vinyl, which is no big deal. So that I can happily live with because, the other spikes are noticeable, so that's pretty good. So yeah, and of course we got nice scale details. And of course, the scales get interesting as, Varan is infamous for having, a more rugged, bulkier back, while his underside has been more smoother. So, taking a look at his more bulkier back, it looks really decent. It definitely looks like the suit from the film. So, Bandai definitely did a really good job and put the tag over. And I will explain why I have the tag on this one. So, yeah, the scoots on Varan look really nice, really, really detailed, actually. Like, I think there was a reason why they made the scoots this particular style. I can't exactly remember. I might need to rewatch Wikizilla's video on it, but yeah, so the scoots look really nice. Really captures Varan's suits very well. And of course, we got, his spikes that goes, from the top of his head, running down all the way to the tip of the tail. Now, one of the iffier points that people have with the Varan figure is, that his paint is somewhat lackluster. Even I'll admit that the paint could have been better. With this being, a Godzilla store exclusive, you do expect a little bit more paint with an exclusive figure. I have heard that this kind of paint scheme is supposed to resemble more of Varan from Destroy All Monsters than in the Varan, because from what I know, the original Varan was more of a brownish color instead of this tannish color that we see in Destroy All Monsters. So I could kind of get that. Although at the same time, it would have been nice to get a little bit more shading across the bodies just to, amp up, the price point since, this Varan, even though he is affordable, he's still a Godzilla store exclusive. And, and of course I did find a way to buy him, thanks to a showcase that Kaiju, but, not everyone will be able to really find, the right, 50-50 price point to get, Varan for an affordable price. So if that's the case, I would have really liked it if Bandai would have amped up the price or amped up the paint, I should say, not the price, the paint. Amp up the paint to make him more worthy of being, exclusive figure. But at the same time, the paint that we do get isn't entirely bad because while I do admit that it's kind of a cheap that they kind of stop the paint on this tail here, like all the spikes from the head to up here, they're all of a white bone color, but it would have been nice to see it go all the way down the tail. So yeah, I would have. So definitely kind of a cop out from Bandai. But, I can kind of live with it because, like I said, the detail on Varan is actually really good. I already talked about the back, scales here. So with the underbelly, there's actually still some good detail here. Like, we got a nice muscle detail here, especially down on this neck. Now you got his abs, nicely sculpted. Of course, some ridges down his belly and around his crotch area. And I'm not sure if this is intentional, but I think Bandai may have given him a cloaca. If you guys know what I mean, if anyone is familiar with animal biology, well, is this the cloaca here or the cloaca? Regardless, you guys, I don't want to ramble on. I've probably done that already, but yeah. And of course, we can see the legal copyright, Toho, Bandai China. So, yep, serial number here. But yeah, nice ridges down the tail. Actually, this portion here is kind of a bit more flatter to help to make him more accessible when he's on 4 right now. Because, of course, this Varan figure is on 4 legs as opposed to, him being, standing up. Some people would prefer if he was standing up, but I personally don't mind him crawling. I think he was mostly crawling in his debut film, so it's not really a big deal anyway. So yeah, and because plus you still get nice details along his tail anyways. So you can see here tiny little bumps and skin folds here. Of course, we got his feet. The back toenails, for some reason, aren't painted, unlike the front ones. The front nails do have the same bone color as the spikes here. But, at least the toes are sculpted. And, it kind of makes sense with the position and all that. And, of course, we got the nice skin folds here. And, of course, we got, Varan's infamous, fins that he used to glide on in his films. So you have to fold it in nicely well. Yep, especially this side here. Of course, they continue on the front arms here. You can see nice skin folds. And then, of course, we got nice details on the arms. The front arms, I should say. The front arms are really well detailed, actually. You can see really nice deep skin folds all throughout the arm here. The claws and hands look really nicely textured and sculpted. It actually kind of reminds me of more or less skeletal anatomy. So, pretty interesting nonetheless. And of course, the feet are kind of flat here, or hands. It's kind of weird how I'm describing this right now because, the Varan is in a quadrupedal stance. So, these are technically, legs right now instead of arms. So I'm not sure how you divine them. But anyway, so his front paws, I should say, they're a bit more flat on the bottom. Like I said, it kind of makes sense, with him being on a crawling form. And of course, he still has the nice texture on the other arm. So really nice details here, nice deep skin crevices here. Of course, nice skin flaps also. And one thing is that I really like, the folds on these sides of Varan's body. It kind of divides, the more bumpier back and the smoother underbelly that Varan has. So really nicely done, I should say. So yeah. And of course, moving back with the head, I know I'm moving on all over the place. So of course, I did talk about how the paint is minimalistic, but at the very least, Bandai did painted his mouth. His mouth is more of a deeper, pinkish, reddish color inside, and then of course we got the teeth that are nicely painted. They look really nicely done. And thankfully, none of the teeth on my figure are actually sloppy. So, which is pretty good considering, like I said, with the price point, you really don't want any small hiccups here and there. Although one hiccup that mine unfortunately has is that this one horn is a bit chipped. So I may have to glue it, but at the same time, I don't really want to, because with him being an exclusive figure, it really hurts the value. Which which actually brings me to why I actually have the tag on. So and since we're at the tag, I might as well show it since it's still on him. So, the tag has a nice image of Varan, with him on the mountainside. It says Varan, and open it up. We got a nice silhouette of Varan and the Godzilla copyright. It's kind of weird how Bandai has been copyrighting some of their kaiju figures recently. Like, before, they would just, show, the stamp, the legal stamp of, different Godzilla kaijus. But now it seems that they're exclusively sticking with Godzilla. So it's a little strange in my opinion. But anyways, and of course the back, Remont series, and I assume that says Godzilla store. Then of course we got Varan's back on the side. So really nice tag. So what I was trying to say is that, with this kind of exclusive figure these days, I am willing to keep the tag on Varan, at least for the moment, because, with him being an exclusive figure, it makes sense for me to, keep the tag on for this one, since, I would assume that over time he will get more valuable, unless, Bandai decides to re-release him. If they decide to, who knows, but, back with, what I was trying to say with this chip torn, I really don't fear of, risking hurting the value on Varan. And I guess one more paint detail I should mention is, of course, the eyes. Pretty simplistic, just, white with the black pupils. But yeah, like I said, the paint could have been, better when it comes to execution. Like, amp up the paint in order to make the value more worth it. But it does make, but, with the sculpt, I think it works fine that, he has a minimalistic paint, but a really decent sculpt. Like, this is definitely one of the best sculpted figures that Bandai has done in kind of a while, actually. And that's not to say that their sculpts have been bad or anything. In fact, I think Bandai has been doing a bit better when it comes to certain kaiju sculpts. In a way, like, I actually do like the sculpts they've been doing with the Godzilla Singular Point line. So, yeah, I don't think Bandai isn't necessarily doing too bad, as some people say they are. But, regardless, with this being an exclusive figure, of course, the sculpt needs to be, really amped up. So, I do appreciate them, giving us a really well sculpted Varan figure after all these years of anticipation. But yeah. So without further ado, I think we should move on to articulation. So yeah, so here we got, the arms here, 360. Of course, this is another thing that people kind of like, is that the articulation kind of hurts, how Varan's skin folds are, supposed to be connected. I will admit, it does look a little weird, per se. It definitely looks a little weird, and this is why some people prefer if he was, in a standing position. I think if Varan's was still in a standing position, I think it still would have, affected, how the skin folds are, positioned in the way. So I think it would have been, hurt by the sculpt regardless. But at the same time, it doesn't hurt. And you gotta remember, this still is supposed to be an articulated Bandai vinyl. even though the only articulation are the front arms and the back legs also. Yep. So only really 4 points of articulation. There is a glue seal on the head and tail, but there is no way I'm risking that because, like I said, an exclusive figure, and I definitely want to keep Varan in the best condition as he can be because, I should mention that the price that I got him on Showcase Kaiju was around $40, I think. So, yeah, he wasn't too expensive there, but I know some other sites that are selling him for a bit more of a pricier price point. So, be mindful of that. And to be honest, I think Showcase Kaiju is probably the best site if you want to get your hands on Varan. Even if it does take, a longer time to, receive Varan. But, yeah. So, without further ado, I think we should move on to one of the better parts of these reviews, and that is, of course, size comparisons. And size is another thing that people have issues with Varan because Varan is, and pardon the noises upstairs, but size is one of the main issues people have with this figure because he is actually more or less in a 7 or 8 inch scale. So he may not exactly scale up with, average a 6-inch figure. So in order to show you what I mean, here's, of course, a figure that most people, of course, have. And that's, of course, my boy, the SH Monster Arts Final Goji. If I can get the camera position. But, yeah, so you can see that Varan, just by staying next to Godzilla, yeah, he is a bit bigger to say the least. So yeah, Varan is a big boy. So, this is so depending your preference, this can be a big put off for a lot of people. Varan is definitely longer than most other 6-inch figures. In fact, I would say he's considered a 6-inch figure. And so he's may not exactly scale well if you want him to be a more smaller kaiju. I mean, they still look okay, actually. They don't look too bad together. But, just to show that, Varan is definitely going to be a bit more of a bigger vinyl figure than the average movie monster series figures these days. And, I just need to adjust the camera a bit. But, yeah, so that's one issue some people have. And of course, we should compare Varan to a monster that he was supposed to fight against, but of course was scrapped. And that is, of course, the GMK Godzilla, represented by NECA, who already appeared in my ranking video of all the NECA Godzilla figures. But yeah. And, this doesn't exactly work because, Varan is still a bit, bigger than, Godzilla. Although I do wonder, if the movie were to actually feature Varan, Aegirus, and Baragon against Godzilla, I wonder how their sizes would have been like. Although, to be fair, I do believe Varan would still have to be, pretty small against Godzilla, since it would have been a whole purpose, 3 monsters trying to battle Godzilla, even though they're smaller. So, and I don't still think it would have worked in a way, but at the same time, they still look decent enough, if you know what I mean. So, no, they still kind of look decent together, considering, considering Varan was supposed to be, Godzilla's arch enemy in GMK. And of course, I should, of course, bring along Aegirus here from the Memorial Box set. So, I should put him here. So, yeah. Hey, you can see I'm kind of making, my own setup for the original script of GMK. So, all I need is a Baragon figure, and thankfully Bandai will be making a new Baragon figure. Although that one will be actually the show-up Baragon, but regardless, it'll be a Baragon, so I'll take it. But yeah. And actually, you know what? Since I have Aegirus here, Actually, Varan and Angerus actually looks pretty good next to each other. Like, they actually, I believe Angerus here is also in a weird scale where he is 7 to 8 inches. And if you want to see my review of on Angerus, I'll probably put a link down in the description. And I even did a review on Final Goji, which I'll also put in the description. But yeah, so you can see that, Angerus actually looks pretty decent next to Varan. I think the only noticeable difference between the two is that Varan has a bigger tail. So, other than that, I think they look pretty decent next to each other. And, I definitely don't mind putting these two, together once I get Varan on my Kaiju shelf. So, yep, pretty decent size with Anguirus here. And I think there is one Godzilla here who actually does look decent next to Varan. And that is the Bandai America Godzilla 1968. Now you might be thinking, isn't Varan still a bit big compared to Godzilla? In a way, but you have to remember something. The original Varan was actually 50 meters long, or 50 meters tall, meaning he was around the same size as the original and Showa Godzilla. So I think if, let's say, Varan was standing in figure form here, I think he would have been around Godzilla's height here. So I think the two actually looks pretty decent next to one another. So yeah, I can imagine if Varan was standing, I think Varan and Godzilla would still look pretty good considering, the original Varan was 50 meters. So, I think this still kind of works in a way. And if you guys will give me, just a moment, I will definitely show you guys, the setup I'll have for Damn. So yeah, I had to kind of hold my phone on the stand right now, but as you can see, I'm starting to build up my own little setup for the Damn set. Of course, not all these are, part of the movie. Of course, that's just, a little Pack of Destruction 2014 Godzilla I'm using as Manila. And of course, that's the custom Safari Dragon I customized as a Fine Horse Manda. So not the Showa Manda. And that is, just a rip-off bootleg spider that I showed in my collection video that is using as a stand-in Kumanga. But regardless, I think if you want, substitute for, the Destroy All Monsters setup, this looks pretty good in my eyes. Like, all I just need is Baragon and, maybe, a proper Manila and Kumanga in the future. And, of course, a proper Manda also. But, regardless, I'm starting to shape up a pretty decent setup for, Destroy All Monsters in my book. So, yeah, definitely. And Varan definitely fills up, this void here. So, I'm really, happy that Bandai is also making Baragon in the future. So, we'll see how that figure will look. So, I'm definitely pleased on, how my Damn setup is looking. And of course, what I mean by Damn, I of course mean Destroy All Monsters. So, yep, if I can put the camera back down, so get these guys out of the way so we can get the focus back on Varan. So, yep. Of course, move you, Ghidorah. So, yeah. So, and, oh, Rodan fell. But, yeah, so I think that's it. So, yeah, so this has been my review of the Godzilla Store exclusive Movie Monster series Varan. So, overall, I am very pleased with Varan. I know there are some issues here, The biggest is that, mine does have, of course, it has sort of a broken horn that I may fix in the future. And that his paint could have been a lot better. But regardless, I'm still very happy that Bandai finally made a figure of Varan, Like, finally, there is, a new Varan figure, we don't have to, constantly be on the edge of our seats looking for, either the Trendmasters or YMSF figures that I mentioned earlier. We finally have, a new Varan figure, even though he's a Godzilla store exclusive, there are definitely some workarounds if you want to get him. Like, of course, I got mine on the Showcase Kaiju, and I still got the link below from, the unboxing video I did a few weeks ago. So check that one, my unboxing on Varan up, so you can follow that link. So yeah, I still think Varan is a really decent exclusive to the Godzilla store. And if I'm to be honest, I think it was kind of a smarter move to make Varan a Godzilla store exclusive, since, with him being more an obscure kaiju, I don't think he would have sold as well as, let's say, some other popular kaijus in the main lineup. So in a way, I can kind of cope with that. I know some people prefer, Varan if he were to be, part of the main lineup, but I still think, Varan is decent enough to be, exclusive for the Godzilla store. So yeah, and if with him being my first Godzilla store exclusive, I'll take it. I'll happily take that. So yeah, very happy with Varan here. Really decent sculpt. Paint job, yes, it could be better, but it isn't entirely awful per se. Articulation is, average. And of course, the scale can be iffy, but I think there are some workarounds if you're an avid collector of Godzilla figures. So yeah, I think this is a pretty acceptable exclusive figure in my eyes. So, I think Varan is a pretty decent addition to your collection if you're a big Kaiju fan, and if you're a big fan of Varan like myself. So yep, definitely recommend this figure if you can get him. I know some people may be sketchy on, not really shopping sites outside of Amazon, but, I definitely think it's safe if you know how to shop. But I don't want to get off topic here, but because, regardless, Varan, really awesome figure, really awesome, really pleased to add him finally in my collection. So yeah, this has been, my special 100 subscriber review. So thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you guys for the support that you've been giving me. And hopefully, with winter break coming soon, I'll have a little bit more time to do certain projects. So look out for that. Definitely follow me on Instagram and all that. So again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.